executive editor of the Common Sense Society, Mollie Hemingway, Fox News contributor. Mollie, where am I wrong here?
Well, this is a really interesting and important point. You have people who are talking about being at the Reagan Library, and what they seem to be wanting to emphasize there is foreign policy, and that is an important thing to emphasize. The Cold War policies that Reagan used to win the Cold War, those are not the policies of Mitch McConnell or George W. Bush. And the Republican Party does do well with that foreign policy. But there was something about the Reagan era that really worked well, where Reagan reached out to working class voters and managed to grow the party. He brought in so many Democrats. You call them Reagan Democrats. That's something that really does work well for the Republican Party, caring about those economic issues, caring about also some of these social issues. An auto worker doesn't just care about having good income and having good wages and benefits. He also doesn't want his kid to be taught to trans in the first grade. You know, there are all these issues that do matter to average Americans. And
I have to say, Stephen Miller's with us as well. Stephen, I mean, those numbers out of Michigan for the average family there and what's happened to them are devastating. And now we're going to apparently allow in millions and millions of other voters over the next year. And if it's next 4 years, probably, what, 15 million, Mollie, something like that, Chris? But, Stephen, how much damage is this doing to the average family's budget, what they're having to spend every week and every month?
Well, they're getting attacked from all sides. That's why globalization and open borders and inflationary spending are going to be central in 2020. Working families cannot keep up. They have low-skilled workers driving down incomes. They have runaway, out-of-control spending in Washington that's making their dollar worthless. And they have trade policies that force American workers in Michigan to compete with actual slave labor in foreign countries. I don't care what kind of economic policy you have. As long as you're competing with child labor and slave labor, American workers are going to lose. And that is the reason why there is a transformational moment that could occur for Republicans if they choose to tap into that public angst, Laura.
Well, Chris, we asked Fox Digital to talk to people in San Diego about just the issue of gas prices. Now they're over $6 there. Watch.
It's crazy. I was just about to take a picture and send it to my friends who are in the Midwest and show them how crazy it is here.
Yeah, I remember when it used to be like $2 and I could fill up with like $20. Like most of my paychecks go into gas.
How much does it cost you to fill up your gas tank?
$88. About $75.
I pay sometimes $100, $120, $100, $150.
Have you had to choose between filling up your gas tank and buying other things?
Oh, actually, yes. A couple times it's been either groceries or gas, and I'm like,
Gas prices have gone up, but what about your pay?
No, it stays the same.
Chris, this one issue, I think, could win the whole election, just the issue of gas prices.
It's brutal. I mean, so I drive a 1994 truck, and I got it from California. A lot of people in California drive old vehicles. They keep them up, and it gets them outside of all the restrictions that Governor Newsom's put on them, their ability to drive actual vehicles. So they have to go with these older ones. It costs over $100 every time I fill up. I have to fill up a couple times, just dropping my kid off at school, just making it to work. And that hits your wallet every time you stop at the grocery store. It's $150. But I'm wondering exactly who these GOP candidates on the stage tonight are going to be talking to. I mean, the Republican voters seem like they've got a pretty clear preference for Donald Trump. But who doesn't is the Republican donor class.
And the senators, like Mitch McConnell. I mean, would they rather have Biden be president?
I think they actually
than
might.
Trump.
It's
they would, right?
On Ukraine for them. Absolutely. And, you know, so they're trying to talk to the finance guys. The finance guys and everyone else were trying to back anyone other than Trump. Early on, they had DeSantis, who you're not going to argue with him on his record. It's a great record. But he's not been doing well. They've been losing faith in that. So tonight, they're going to be looking at that screen saying, who's going to agree with me on Ukraine? Who's going to agree with the finance class on this or that? And they're going to go with that. Nikki Haley is out there maybe as someone. And you look at Vivek Ramaswamy, he separated himself the other debate for being the only person out there with a foreign policy that sounded like the voters. So maybe he's going to be under attack today, but everyone else is going for that finance class.
Mollie, what of this? I mean, there's nothing personal against anybody. I mean, they're really interesting people and nice people, and they've all had positions of some prestige. But the voters have been very clear on the issues they care about. And it seems like the donors are saying no, 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 can't do it, and Senate leadership, no, 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 no. But I mean, we are supposed to be a representative democracy, are we not? Don't the people have their say in the end?
And this does happen in other primary situations as well. It's really pronounced right now. The people could not be more clear about their concern about the direction of the country. They really do think things are serious. They are very worried about the economy. And they're clear also that they do not want to have yet another endless war in Ukraine without, with a war without a strategy. The people who run Washington, D.C. do not care what the American people think. They're beholden to other interests. But tonight, there's a real opportunity. The candidate who does articulate concern for foreign policy that matches what American voters have wanted and consistently that they have done well with from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
Two words, America first. Aren't those two words, Stephen? Don't those two words capture where people's mindset happens to be now? That we feel terrible about all these other
America
problems, but
first.
ours, we're bad. We're in a bad spot right now.
The voters want America first. The donors want Ukraine first. That's the fight you see right now between Mitch McConnell's Republican Party and Donald Trump's Republican Party. And that is going to be the issue that defines the struggle within the Republican Party for some time to come. And like you, Laura, I hope the populists prevail.
All right, Pam.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.